They mocked him, laughed at his age, said his time was over. But in one impossible moment, when the pressure peaked, and the world stopped watching with hope, and started watching to judge, he rose, he struck, and silence followed, not just in the stadium, but across the globe. This was the moment Cristiano Ronaldo reminded the world who he truly is. The stadium roared, but it was not for him. Thousands chanted the name of the new golden boy. Ronaldo? He was done, they said. Too old, too slow, too far from what he once was. Cameras zoomed in on his face. No smile, just focus. And behind those eyes, something dangerous, something personal. It was a Champions League knockout stage. His team was trailing. Critics had written their pieces in advance. Finished. Overrated. A shadow of the past. The final whistle was minutes away, and that was when it happened. A ball floated into the box. One defender, two, all closing in. No room, no angle, no time. But Ronaldo didn't need any. With the calm of a man who had done it 1,000 times, he rose, hung in the air like time had frozen just for him. And with a twist of his body, he struck the ball midair with the precision of a master. The net bulged. Silence. Total silence. As if the entire world forgot how to breathe. Even his haters stood in awe. Then came the sound. Not of jeers, not of boos, but thunderous applause. From fans, from rivals, from doubters who had just witnessed the impossible. He didn't celebrate wildly. No sprint to the corner flag. No shirt off. Just a look, a slow turn to the crowd. That silent stare. A message without words. I'm still him. That moment, more than a goal, more than a win, was a warning. Ronaldo wasn't finished. He was just getting started. And from that day on, the world never doubted him the same way again. The cameras panned across the stadium. Faces were stunned. Commentators struggled for words. Even his own teammates paused, as if trying to understand what they had just witnessed. In the VIP box, club executives exchanged glances. Whispers turned into disbelief. This was not just a goal. It was a resurrection. Moments later, the referee blew the whistle. Full time. Ronaldo had done it again. Another chapter written in a career already filled with miracles. As he walked off the pitch, the world's attention locked onto him. But he said nothing. Not a word in the tunnel. Not a word in the post-match press conference. He let the moment speak for itself. The next morning, headlines exploded. Vintage Ronaldo. The king is not dead. He silenced every doubter in 90 minutes. Pundits backtracked. Analysts replayed the goal from every angle. Slow motion, frame by frame, trying to find logic in something that felt supernatural. But the truth? You couldn't analyze that moment. You had to feel it. It was not just about technique, not just about athleticism. It was about willpower. A man stripped of all hype, all marketing, all narrative, just him and the ball. And in that instant, he reminded the world who he was, and who he still is. But the story didn't end there. It was a spark, a beginning. From that moment, a fire was reignited. Game after game, he delivered, scoring winners, breaking records, lifting his team when no one else could. And the world? It watched in awe. The same voices that once mocked him now praised his discipline, his hunger, his refusal to fade away quietly. Off the pitch, something else changed. Young players, even those who idolized newer stars, began studying him again. His training routines, his mentality, his silence in chaos. Coaches pointed to that goal in highlight reels, not just as a moment of skill, but as a masterclass of mentality. And Ronaldo? He never spoke much about that match, never claimed it was a turning point. But those close to him knew. That was a night he remembered who he was. Not the icon, not the brand, but the boy from Madeira, who trained with bricks in his shoes to make his legs stronger, who slept in a small room with his teammates and ate plain food just to survive, who promised his mother he would change their life, no matter what. That fire, it never left. It was just waiting for the right moment to explode again. And when the world had turned its back, that moment arrived. The exact moment Cristiano Ronaldo silenced the world. What happened after that night was not just a comeback. It was a storm. Ronaldo, reborn, no longer chasing the spotlight. He became the spotlight. Each game felt like a mission. Each goal, a statement. Not just to the world, but to himself. You could see it in his eyes. No smiles. No celebration for the cameras. Just clenched fists. Focus stays, and fire. He stopped answering interviews. Let his boots speak. Let the scoreboards talk. Let the silence of his critics become the loudest sound in football. There was a match. Weeks later, an away game. Freezing rain. A hostile crowd. He was booed during warm-up. Mocked with chants. Signs waving. Finished player. Too old. But he didn't flinch. Didn't even glance at the crowd. He walked onto the pitch like a man possessed, and within the first 10 minutes, he scored, then again, a hat-trick, in enemy territory. By the time he walked off the pitch, those same fans were applauding, not because they loved him, but because they had no choice, because what they had just witnessed was greatness that could not be denied. Reporters called it a second prime. Veterans said it was unnatural. But Ronaldo, he never used words like that. He called it work, obsession, sacrifice. He started showing up at the training ground earlier than everyone else again, left later, ate simpler meals, slept in recovery pods, reviewed every game like it was a military operation. It wasn't about proving doubters wrong anymore. It was about proving to himself that he still had control over his story. In the locker room, younger players sat silently, watching him tape his ankles, stretch, warm up in silence. They didn't dare interrupt. They were watching a machine, a living legend, who was no longer chasing the game, but bending it to his will. In one interview, a teammate was asked, what changed in Ronaldo after that night? He answered, he stopped trying to prove people wrong and started proving himself right. That was a shift. The exact moment, it wasn't the goal. It wasn't the final whistle. It wasn't even the celebration. It was the silence. The few seconds when the world stopped doubting and started remembering who Cristiano Ronaldo truly was. A storm in human form. A legend built in sweat and scars. And from that silence, a legacy was reborn louder than ever. That was the exact moment Cristiano Ronaldo silenced the world. And in doing so, he reminded us all, you don't speak louder by shouting. You speak louder by showing up when no one expects you to. The silence he created that night, it never truly ended. It followed him, grew with him, echoed in every stadium he entered. It was not the silence of absence. It was the silence of awe. Journalists began to hesitate before writing him off again. Clubs that once passed on him now sent silent offers behind closed doors. Young players stopped comparing themselves to him and started studying him. Every touch, every warm-up drill, every look before a penalty. They knew they were watching a man in complete command of his craft. But while the world was slowly waking up to his resurgence, Ronaldo didn't stop. He trained harder, ate cleaner, rested smarter. He was no longer playing for trophies. He was playing for something no one could give him, and no one could take away. Legacy. Then came the international stage. The critics returned. He's too old for national duty. Let the new generation take over. He should retire gracefully. But Ronaldo, he heard it all, and once again, he answered without speaking. In a crucial qualifier, the team was struggling, the crowd uneasy, the coach pacing, defenders cracking. Then, in the 87th minute, a foul outside the box, dangerous range, high pressure. He stepped up, placed the ball, backed away, eyes on the wall, and just for a second, you could see it again. That storm, that inner fire that had terrified goalkeepers for 2 decades. He struck, over the wall, curling, dipping, perfect, top corner, net, explosion. The stadium erupted, and he ran, straight to the corner flag. dropped to his knees, not for drama, not for headlines, but because in that moment, the boy from Madeira had once again conquered the world, and this time there were no boos, no doubters, only silence, reverence, respect, from journalists to coaches to former players. The narrative changed. Ronaldo is redefining longevity. He is not just part of the game's history, he is still writing it. A new generation watched, a new lesson learned. You can doubt him, you can write him off, but you cannot stop him, because greatness doesn't end with age. It ends when a man stops believing in himself. And Cristiano Ronaldo, he never stopped, not when he was benched, not when he was mocked, not when he was told he was done. The moment he silenced the world was not a single point in time. It was every moment after, where he let his actions echo louder than any critic ever could. And now, his name is no longer just written in record books. It's carved in history, etched into the minds of generations, not just because of what he achieved, but how he achieved it, through fire, through doubt, through silence. And from that silence rose the greatest response the world has ever seen. Years passed, new stars emerged, new headlines took over, new boots graced the field. But in every conversation about greatness, one name still echoed: Cristiano Ronaldo, not because he played the longest, but because he refused to disappear. Young prodigies were praised for potential, but Ronaldo, he was praised for proof. Seasons of goals, trophies lifted, finals decided by his boots. And yet, it was not the numbers that defined him. It was that moment, that exact moment, when the stadium stood still, when the air became thick with disbelief, when time seemed to pause, as one man rose above it all and delivered a goal that rewrote the narrative. Because in that 1 second, he reminded the world of something it had forgotten, that greatness doesn't ask for permission. It just shows up, again, and again, and again. And the silence that followed that goal, it became a symbol, a lesson, that no matter how loud the world screams your downfall, your response can be louder, even in silence. Years later, at a football awards gala, an interviewer asked him a simple question: when did you know you were still at the top? He smiled, just barely, and answered, when the world stopped clapping and I kept scoring. That was it, the essence of the man, not fueled by praise, not crushed by criticism, but driven by a fire that lived deeper than the game itself, a fire born from sacrifice, from sweat, from years of being doubted, underestimated, pushed aside. That goal, that moment, wasn't luck. It was built in training grounds at midnight, in ice baths, in heartbreak, in hunger, and when the world expected silence. He gave them something unforgettable, not noise, not words, but a moment so pure, so undeniable, that even time itself seemed to pause and watch. And now, whenever a young player steps onto the field, whenever they hear the whispers, the doubt, the criticism, they remember that clip, that goal, that stay, that silence, and deep down, they hope that one day, they too will have a moment like that, a moment that changes everything, a moment that silences the world, a moment that lasts forever. Years from now, when the stadiums are quieter, when the spotlight has moved on, when Cristiano Ronaldo has hung up his boots for good, that moment will still live on, in archives, in highlight reels, in the hearts of fans who saw it live, and even more who grew up watching it. A new generation will ask, what made Ronaldo different? And the answer won't just be in the trophies, or the goals, or the records that stretch across history. The answer will be found in that one frozen frame, that one impossible jump, that unthinkable finish, that deafening silence after the ball hit the net, that moment when he refused to fade, when he stood up not to be celebrated, but to remind the world that belief, when it's unshakable, is more powerful than talent, hype, or age. He had every reason to walk away, to let the headlines be right, to accept that his time had passed. But he didn't, because Ronaldo wasn't just built to win. He was built to rise, especially when no one believed he could. And that, more than anything else, is why the world went silent. Because when greatness speaks, you do not interrupt. You listen, you watch, and if you're lucky enough, you witness the exact moment. That one man changes everything. Forever. One day, the boots will be laced for the last time. The anthem will echo one final time. The floodlights will dim, and the crowd will stand still. Not in sadness, not in farewell, but in gratitude. Because men like Cristiano Ronaldo, they don't just play the game. They change it. They redefine it. They become the standard against which future greatness is measured. When that day comes, and the ball stops rolling beneath his feet, there will be no need for goodbye speeches. No word can match what the world already witnessed. Because long after the grass regrows over his footprints, the stories will live on, told in schoolyards, replayed in living rooms, remembered by fans who never even saw him live, but felt him in the silence he left behind. They'll say, he was the man who never listened to limits, the player who turned doubt into fuel, the storm they couldn't stop, and above all, he was the one who silenced the world by never silencing himself. For legacies aren't written in gold. They are etched in silence, in moments, in glances, in that second when everything stands still, and the world realizes they are witnessing the impossible. That is the power of Cristiano Ronaldo. That is the truth behind his roar. And that was the exact moment. He silenced the world, forever.